cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
From novice to efficient.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy BJ Jones, man. We're coming back to you inside HBCU football, man. We're doing it live tonight. Shout out to everyone for joining me tonight. Make sure that you following along. Tell a friend. Got a lot to talk about tonight. This was week 4 of the HBCU football season. We had some interesting contests in and around the Southwestern Athletic Conference, the MEAC and the likes. Interesting week. It started off on Thursday night this week with the Braves of Alcorn State. We know how well they played a week ago down in Mobile against South Alabama. Almost won their football game. Well, the Braves had a little bit more to prove. They went up to Arkansas Pine Bluff. This game was interesting for a few reasons. Number one, Alcorn, we know the string of Eastern Division titles that they've won. They moved from the Eastern Division of the Southwestern Athletic Conference over to the Western Division. Arkansas Pine Bluff won the Western Division title during the spring. Football team that felt disrespected, felt like a lot of people overlooked them. We started talking about the preseason predicted order of finish. So this game was interesting for a multitude of different reasons. And I tell you what, before we got out on Thursday, it was interesting for more reason than one. Arkansas Pine Bluff, man, started this football game out about as good as you could expect to start it out. They jumped on the Braves quick, jumped on them fast in a hurry. How about this? Arkansas Pine Bluff scored 23 points in the first quarter. Let me repeat that. Arkansas Pine Bluff scored 23 points in the first quarter. Yes, I had to look down and check my notes to just make sure I was correct on that. 23 points in the first quarter. They led by the score 26-7 going into the half. Alcorn State looked about as bad as they've looked all year. Felix Harper was on the run for his life. He was sacked multiple times. They were getting to him. Turnovers, penalties, you name it. Things just weren't going well for Alcorn, and it looked like Arkansas Pine Bluff had made their statement. And then they kicked off the second half. Alcorn State, from that point on, in the second half, they scored 19 in the third quarter, scored 13 in the fourth. Arkansas Pine Bluff only 12 points total in the second half. That Alcorn State Braves defense really came to play in the second half. Felix Harper, who was running for his life, now all of a sudden he was comfortable back in the pocket. And when he wasn't, he was able to make do with his feet to kind of extend some drives. Charles Pringle was amazing. Nico Duffy for Alcorn State also amazing. Felix Harper going 16-32 for 368 yards and 3 touchdowns. Nico Duffy, 23 carries, 142 yards 142 yards, 2 touchdowns. C.J. Bowler for Alcorn State, transfer from Vanderbilt, 5 receptions, 151 yards, and a touchdown. That Alcorn team got it done. They defeat the Golden Lions of Arkansas Pine Bluff by the score of 39-38. And if you are a Golden Lion, you remember Golden Lion faithful, you're asking yourself, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Arkansas Pine Bluff had an opportunity in the fourth quarter to kick a field goal to extend their lead. They decided to not do that, decided to go for it on the fourth down. That attempt was unsuccessful. They leave that drive with 0 points. Alcorn goes down and scores. That was big. Only a 1 point ball game. They kick the field goal there. Who knows? It's probably over. But shout out to the Braves, Coach Fred McNair, his staff for getting that football team ready to play. Despite having a horrible first half of football, that football team was ready to play in the second half. And Alcorn showing the world right now that you're going to have to beat the champ. You're going to have to beat the champ. So shout out to the Braves of Alcorn for that win up at Arkansas Pine Bluff. If you're Arkansas Pine Bluff, you got another big Thursday night game coming up. This time will be against the Panthers of Prairie View. We'll talk about that big win that they had on yesterday against Grambling State. Fourth win in a row over Grambling State. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but that sets up a monstrous matchup between Prairie View and Arkansas Pine Bluff Thursday night. You look at the magnitude of that matchup. You got Arkansas Pine Bluff who will be trying to avoid going 0-2 in the conference. And we're still in the early goings. 0-2, you've dug yourself a significant hole to try to dig yourself out of. So it's going to be interesting. If you're Prairie View, you've been here before. Prairie View has defeated Grambling. This will be 4 years in a row. They have defeated them every year since 2018. But usually after that Grambling game, Prairie View kind of fades a little bit. You got to make sure that doesn't happen this year. So that game is going to be key. Thursday night, another SWAC contest. And these Thursday night HBCU games, Alabama A&M, Bethune-Cookman, Alcorn State, Arkansas Pine Bluff. These have been some very exciting contests to watch. So hopefully the game this Thursday also lives up to that billing. And we get another one on Thursday night. That's a barn burner. Also in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, you had the defending SWAC champion, Alabama A&M, going down to Mobile, Alabama, to play the Golden Lions of Tuskegee. Tuskegee has had better days. They were embarrassed by Fort Valley. They took one on the chin against West Alabama. They've had better days. They did get back in the winning column a week ago against Edward Waters. But Alabama A&M is not Edward Waters. Alabama A&M, by all accounts, ranked by many the number one team in black college football right now. Keel Glass, you know what that offense can do. Tuskegee actually made this game a little bit more interesting than a lot of people would have thought. Alabama A&M wins by a score of 45-35. Tuskegee scores 35 points, their highest offensive output all year. 35 points. Tuskegee, a team offensively that has struggled, got their footing against Alabama A&M. 443 total yards yesterday for the Tuskegee Golden Tigers. That's almost double what they've had in their other games. So if you're Alabama A&M, the question is still defensively. That defense for Alabama A&M has not been playing well. Make no mistakes, no bones about it. That defense has not been playing well. But that offense, you talk about 559 yards total offense, 31 first downs, 416 yards in the air for Akil Glass, and then Gary Qualls on the ground. Another 120 plus yard day. That offense is something special for the guys up in Normal, Alabama. The question for Alabama A&M is, can you stop anybody? Can you stop anybody? This weekend, Alabama A&M will take it on the road. They go to Grambling, a place historically that has not been friendly to them. Grambling defensively solid as a rock. Offensively, there's some opportunities there. So that's going to be an interesting ball game coming up next week. We'll dive into Grambling a little bit later. But Alabama A&M did some things well on yesterday. We talked about Akil Glass, his ability to throw the football. Garrett Qualls, 24 carries, 164 yards, 2 touchdowns. That receiver group for Alabama A&M, they're special. We talk about a young group of guys that combined for 26 receptions and almost 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. They call them the Outlaws, but they have been special this year, and they just keep it going. Tuskegee, let's give the Golden Tigers a little bit of shine. Their quarterback, Williams, went 12 of 23 for 210 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also added 46 yards on the ground. Isaiah Patterson at running back, 18 carries, 100 yards. Tuskegee offensively looked a lot better on yesterday than what they've looked the entire year. It'll be interesting to see if that continues for Tuskegee. We know how this season started, but it's a long season. And one thing about Tuskegee, all of the goals that they had set forth for this football team are still attainable. They just have to win out. So we'll see what happens there with Tuskegee. We talk about Alabama A&M, their trip to Grambling coming up on Saturday. Let's talk about the G-men of Grambling State University. They faced off against Prairie View A&M in Dallas, Texas, in the State Fair Classic. Prairie View was looking for a win number 4 in a row against Grambling State. That's historic. Prairie View has not had such a streak over Grambling since the 1960s. So this win was something that would have been very important for Prairie View. Prairie View got it done on yesterday, 24-10 over Grambling State. Not much to say. Grambling State could not find themselves offensively. Only 10 points. Offense couldn't move the ball. Defense played well. Played well enough to keep Grambling State in the ball game. But too much Prairie View. Not enough Grambling offense. Grambling falls to 1-3. Offensively, they have some issues on that offensive line. A lot of people like to talk about the quarterback position. Do you go with which quarterback you go with, whether it's going to be AC, as they call him? Is it going to be Elijah? Do you go with Noah Biden? And I'm going to be honest, as long as that offensive line is up front, it doesn't matter who you go with as far as the quarterback position is concerned. Grambling's problems offensively all start up front. It's that offensive line that don't do a good job of protecting the passer. They don't do that good of a job of opening up lanes to run. Grambling ranked next to last in the conference as far as yards per rush. pass yards per game, bottom of the conference in total offense. And it all starts up front. G-Men 1-3. We know that people in northern Louisiana are not happy. They're not satisfied with that 1-3 start. They open up their home opener this weekend at Alabama A&M. It'll be interesting to see how many of the Grambling faithful show up, how many of the Tiger fans are still on board, because they're going to need them. Kill Glass in that offense rolling into town to face off against the Grambling State Tigers. It's going to be an interesting ball game. If you're Grambling, that defense has to keep you in that ball game. You have to play solid special teams, and the offense can kind of play some ball control a little bit. But to do that, you have to open up those holes as far as the running game to play ball control. You have to turn over. You have to get some first downs. You have to be able to move the football. Now, one thing about it is Alabama A&M defensively hadn't shown that they can stop anybody. So this is the defense to kind of get that going with. But on the defensive side of the football, Grambling has to have a solid day. If not, they have no shot. They have no shot. We know historically Alabama A&M has struggled in Robinson Stadium on the campus of Grambling State University. But this is a new day. And Grambling could potentially start the season 1-4, 0-2 in the conference. And I know a lot of people have been talking about hot seat with Project Fobbs and kind of what happens next. That seat will heat up if that game on Saturday does not go well. I don't think that Grambling has to win it. I just think that they can't be blown out at home by Alabama A&M. So we'll see what happens with those two programs on Saturday. That game will be held at Grambling State. Going to be an interesting ball game. Alabama A&M will make the trip out west, and we'll see what happens there. Speaking of schools in the state of Alabama, the Hornets of Alabama State University faced off against the Wildcats of Bethune-Cookman. Remember, a few weeks ago, Bethune-Cookman was a hot team. They played UTEP well, played well against Central Florida, played a highly contested ball game against Alabama A&M, a game that they had opportunities to win. Now you're talking about Bethune-Cookman going into Montgomery. They were the favorite to win this football game. But I think a lot of people saw what Alabama A&M did against Miles College, and it kind of sold them a little short. But Alabama State took care of business at home, 38-24 against Bethune-Cookman. The biggest key of this football game, Bethune-Cookman only had 11 yards rushing. It is hard to win a football game with 11 yards rushing. Alabama State, Hornets. Alabama State gets it done by the score of 38-24. Ryan Nellis was 23 of 41 for 260 yards, threw 2 touchdowns. Ja'Cory Merritt for Alabama State, 15 carries for 43 yards. He led all rushers. Alabama State dominated this football game. There were points where it looked like Bethune-Cookman was going to get back into it. And every time Alabama State slammed the door shut on them, 38-24. And if you're a Hornet, you have to be excited about what you saw on yesterday. Alabama State getting that big win. Coach Donald Ely, he can breathe a little bit. But for Alabama State, this is the win that you needed to get. A lot of people had sold the Hornets short a little bit. So congratulations to the Hornets of Alabama State. They get it done. Bethune-Cookman 0-4, 0-2 to start their SWAC era. Now they're in the cellar of the Eastern Division of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and they need to win and a lot of help to get into championship contention. Also in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, we'll keep it in the Eastern Division. The Tigers of Jackson State, they've been hot. Talk about what they've been doing. Shadua Sanders, we talk about the boatload of transfers, especially on the defensive side of the football. Jackson State defensively playing better than almost anybody. They faced off against Delta State, Division II foe in state Mississippi, of the Gulf South Conference. A pretty good football program. Not the Delta State of old, but still a pretty good football program. They got some solid programs over in the Gulf South Conference. They go into Memorial Stadium in Jackson to face off against Jackson State. Jackson State pulled that game off. It was closer than a lot of people thought that it would have been. Jackson State wins that ball game by a score of 24-17. Shador Sanders, 25 of 36, 251 yards and 3 touchdowns. The biggest key in this football game, Jackson State still can't run the football. They were one-dimensional. They were able to get to Shador Sanders a lot, get him on the ground. He seemed a little gimpy towards the end of that football game. Jackson State defensively, solid as they've been all year. They did give up, a few scores late, but their defense played well. Only gave up 91 yards through the air. Delta State completed less than 50% of their passes. Delta State was able to get it done on the ground. 30 carries for 146 yards as a team. That's getting it done. If you're Jackson State, 38 carries for 65 yards, ain't going to get it. That makes you a one-dimensional football team. So that's something I'm pretty sure that the Tigers will be working with during the off week. Jackson State only surrendered 10 first downs to Delta State. But they gave up 4.9 yards per carry, and they only averaged 1.7 yards per carry. Penalty yardage, pretty even. Delta State 6 for 50 yards. Jackson State 6 for 62 yards. Both of them had a turnover apiece. If you're Jackson State, the biggest stat, the one that matters, that's going to make people smile, you're 3-1 going into the bye week. You're 1-0 in the conference. You're off this week. Then you make the pilgrimage to Huntsville, Alabama, to face off against the Bulldogs of Alabama A&M, and it's going to be homecoming on the Hill. That game is going to be big. I'm talking about Orca big. We're talking about who will represent the Eastern Division of the Southwestern Athletic Conference in the SWAC championship game. This is a big football game coming up in 2 weeks, but Jackson State gets the week off. Alabama A&M goes to Grambling, and I'm pretty sure that week that will be the game of the week. But Jackson State getting it done, 24-17 over Delta State. Also in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, you had Texas Southern going on the road to face off against Rice. Rice were looking for their first win on the year, so was Texas Southern. This game actually, Texas Southern late scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. They were down by quite a few. Offensively, they were able to get it done late in the fourth to kind of found their footing there. Andrew Bodie from Texas Southern, 19 of 35 for 353 yards and an interception. Texas Southern offensively found a spark. Granted, they found it late, but they found a spark. They were able to rack up 461 yards of total offense, 357 yards through the air, 104 on the ground. The problem is they surrendered 620 yards of total offense, 271 in the air, 349 on the ground. They lose to Rice by a score of 48-34. A lot of people thought that the game was going to be a little bit more lopsided. But Texas Southern, they lose, but they look a lot better in this contest against Rice than they did all year, especially offensively. You saw the young man come in at quarterback, Andrew Bodie. He looks the part. We have heard about him We've heard that Mr. Bodie was the real deal. He came in and looked great, so it'll be interesting to see if Texas Southern can build off of that uh, and go forth with the remainder of the season. And then on today, yes, we had football on today. Southern University facing off against Mississippi Valley State. Um, that particular ball game took place today in Jackson, Mississippi, um, at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time. Southern gets it done, 38-25. Glendon McDaniel, 18 of 26, 235 yards and 5 touchdowns. Kobe Dillon led the way on the ground with 11 carries and 93 yards. If you're Southern, that offense looked a lot better. Glendon McDaniel, very efficient with the football, didn't turn the ball over, 5 touchdown passes. So that's a good thing. The bad thing, defensively, Southern looks bad. Tackling is poor. You gave up 25 points to Valley, their highest point output for the year. And defensively, they just seem lost at times. So Southern has some things to work on. They get a week off, and then they face against that hot Texas Southern team that we just talked about. But the big thing for Southern, you're 2-2 and 1-0 in the conference. That's the biggest takeaway from today. Bubba McDaniel starting in place of Ladarius Skelton. He was efficient with the football. A lot of people have been waiting to see Southern offensively take that next step. They did it today. Glendon McDaniel, Bubba, as they call him, a solid game today. 235 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Over in the MEAC, the biggest game over there was North Carolina A&T and North Carolina Central, the renewal of the Aggie Eagle Classic or Eagle Aggie Classic, whichever side that you fall on. That took place in Greensboro, North Carolina on yesterday. The Aggies get it done 37-14. They have defeated the Eagles. They've now beaten them every year since 2017. They've been doing it in dominant fashion. Offensively, North Carolina Central couldn't get anything done. They did score 11 points in the fourth quarter, but North Carolina A&T, wow. That football team looked yesterday like we thought that they would look early parts of the year. They get their first win of the year to bring their record to 1-2. Central drops down to 2-2 over in the MEAC. Merrimack defeats Delaware State 47-10. Delaware State had hung tough in this one for a while, 14-10 at the half, and then Merrimack scored 33 unanswered. Wow. I mean, Delaware State, this second half, it was rough. It was rough. The Hornets fall to 1-3. They have a few games before they get ready for conference play. Remember, the MEAC only has 6 football playing institutions, so those schools only have 5 conference games. And those conference games don't start for a few weeks. So we'll see what happens there. Also in the MEAC, Norfolk State, they faced off against St. Francis, went on the road to face off against them. They got it done by the score of 28-16. Norfolk State dominant in this football game. They did give up a touchdown late to St. Francis. J.J. Davis from Norfolk, 14 carries for 93 yards. This defense from Norfolk State limited St. Francis to less than 240 yards total offense. Kept them out of the end zone really almost 3 quarters. St. Francis scored 10 points the first quarter, and then they didn't score again until late. So shout out to the Spartans. And then Howard, Oh man, the rough season continues for Howard. They dropped to 0-4 after losing to Robert Morris by a score of 22-16. Howard actually played well in that football game, had some opportunities to win, and couldn't capitalize on any of those opportunities, and that's why you're Howard. Howard drops down to 0-4. Rough year for the Bison. In the Mideastern Athletic Conference next week, got a few key ball games. Morgan State will host St. Francis on Saturday. That game will kick off at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be available on ESPN Plus. Howard will host Sacred Heart. Um, Howard 0-4 facing off against 2-2 Sacred Heart. Another game, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. It'll be available on ESPN Plus as well. Bethune-Cookman of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, they step out of conference. Next week, they visit the Bulldogs of South Carolina State. They go to Orangeburg. Both teams looking for their first win. I think if you're South Carolina State, you need to pick up a win. You have to pick up a win. You're one of the teams that's favored to win the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. A win here will pay dividends. Norfolk State, the Battle of the Bay. Norfolk State will visit Hampton. Norfolk State sitting at 2-2. Hampton at 2-1. Surprisingly, Norfolk State looking to make a statement. They are the dominant program in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. They play Hampton out of the Big South. That Battle of the Bay is back. Big rivalry in the Hampton, Tidewater area, Norfolk area. That game will kick off at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be available on ESPN Plus. And then North Carolina Central, the Eagles of the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, they come on down to SWAC country. So you have two MEAC SWAC contests this week. The Eagles will face off against the Delta Devils of Mississippi Valley State. That game will kick off at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, be 3 p.m. Central. Delaware State will go to Staten Island to face off against Wagner College. They're 0-4. The Hornets of Delaware State sit at 1-3. They're looking to pick up a win on next week. That's your slate in the Mideastern Athletic Conference. In the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Arkansas Pine Bluff, we talked about this, Thursday night, 7:30 Eastern Time, 6:30 Central. Arkansas Pine Bluff will go on the road to Prairie View, Texas, to face off against the Panthers of Prairie View. That game will be shown on ESPNU. Make sure you tune in. I think you're going to be in for a dandy there. Alabama A&M, 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Central, will travel to Grambling State University. They will face off against the G-men of Grambling. Alabama A&M sitting at 3-0. Grambling State University sitting at 1-3. Grambling definitely needs to get off the snide here. You go 1-4 and 0-2 in the conference, and that hot seat talk will pick up immediately. And there will be a lot of it. It's already going now, but you go 1-4, 0-2 in the conference, and yes, you'll get that. Alabama State University will be traveling to Tallahassee, Florida, to face off against Florida A&M, old-time SIAC rivals, Alabama State and Florida A&M. But this time, hey, their first interaction as conference foes as far as the Southwestern Athletic Conference. That's a big game. Alabama State currently sits 1-0 in the conference. FAMU 0-1, can't fall down 0-2. Alabama State, they want to stay in the thick of the race in the East. This is a game that you have to win. So I think that this is a very important game. That game goes down next Saturday at Bragg Memorial Stadium in Tallahassee. The game will kick off at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Central. Speaking about the games, we went in and we talked about the matchups from this past weekend and how some of the teams looked, how some of these matchups went. We previewed the games for next weekend. My game of the week next week, I have two of them. One is Arkansas Pine Bluff going on the road to face off against Prairie View, and another one is Alabama State going to Tallahassee, Florida, to face off against Florida A&M. I think that those two ball games are very key. If you just talk about from a rivalry standpoint, we're not going to leave out Norfolk State visiting Hampton, the Battle of the Bay. A lot of football to be played. A lot of fan bases sitting high. Some are frustrated. The biggest thing to remember is that there is a lot of football to be played. We saw this with Alcorn State with the way that they came out against North Carolina Central. A lot of people had written off poor old Alcorn. Alcorn was one of the favorites to win the Western Division title. A lot of people were hitting me up saying, hey, you might want to change your Western Division champion pick. But now Alcorn, it seems that they may have gotten their footing. We'll see. May have gotten their footing. And they look like one of the contenders in the Western Division. They're off this week, but next week they host Grambling for homecoming. That could be a very interesting ball game there. Also, Alabama A&M. It's heavy is the head that wears the crown, but Alabama A&M has been playing to the level of their opponent every week. Defensively, Alabama A&M not good. Not good. They made Bethune-Cookman look like an offensive juggernaut, especially on the ground. Bethune-Cookman yesterday couldn't run the ball for any type of daylight at all against Alabama State. So Alabama A&M, we know what they are. They have a huge game coming up, not only this week with Grambling, because it's the next one, but then next week, homecoming against Jackson State. I think that game will tell us a lot about the Eastern Conference division race. With that game, you have Jackson State, who can't run the ball. You have Alabama A&M, who can't stop the run. And then you have a Jackson State defense that has played well, has played very well. Alabama A&M will be the best offense that they have seen. Akil Glass and that group of receivers, that will be the best. That will be the best offense that Jackson State has seen so far this year. So looking forward to that game. That's coming up in 2 weeks. Don't want to rush this thing. We wait all year for college football to get here, and it's finally here. So I tell people that they just sit back and enjoy the moment. Got about 15 minutes before I cut out of here. Just remember, if you want to support any and anyone here on the BCSN network, make sure that you are following us on Facebook as well as Twitter at MyBCSN, Twitter at BCSN. We take pride in what we do here. One of the things that we did this weekend is that we took the Game Time show on the road, Mobile, Alabama, and we brought to you the Alabama A&M and Tuskegee game. That was put on broadcast by BCSN. So doing some great things here at BCSN to make sure that you're caught up to date. When we keep it action-packed with Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, the Game Time show, Carlos Brown show. There's literally something going on every day here at BCSN, and like we're just trying to keep you plugged in. I am a big proponent of saying, hey, make sure that you take care of your HBCU sports media. Take care of the people that take care of you. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in and following and watching here with me. Remember, if you miss it, if you miss this, you follow BCSN. You will catch the podcast version of this as well. Well, trust me, we got you covered. We know that all the time you're not able to catch the live shows. That's okay. That's fine. That's fine. We have the podcast version. So you can drive along, mow the lawn or whatever, and have us in your ear. Top 5 Tuesday, if you follow me on Twitter, Top 5 Tuesday will go down this Tuesday, where I go in and rank the top 5 programs in HBCU football. The biggest thing to remember about Top 5 Tuesday, man, it's week to week. It's week to week. It's based on how these schools are playing, and we are still early. A lot of people get fired up about that Top 5 Tuesday. Why my team's not here? Why is this team above mine? Well, it's still early. All these things will work themselves out. All right. So Top 5 Tuesday. Also, man, if you missed this morning on the HBCU Sports Lab with Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, Charles Bishop, we had a good run around, man, and talked about some of these games. AD Drew was there as well. Talked about and breaking down some of these games from this past weekend. Make sure you tune into that. We kind of previewed the next week's contests that are coming up and how important that those are as well. So make sure that you go in and support that. Make sure you're supporting the 1400 Club, Charles Bishop, Neely. They do an outstanding job with that. Give you all the ins and outs of Jackson State football, the ins and outs of that program. They do a fantastic job here. So if you are a Tiger fan, look, you ain't even got to be a Tiger fan. All right. You do not have to be a fan of the Jackson State Tigers. You will enjoy the work that they do and the insights that they're able to give. So shout out to Charles Bishop as well as my boy Neely. You guys keep doing a fantastic job there. Also want to give a shout out to the boss man, Roy Evans, doing everything behind the scenes today. Today, I ain't got AD Drew with me today. So, man, Roy, man, he has been the ghostwriter, as you will, man, pulling the strings and pressing the buttons back at the studio to make sure that this thing flows smoothly. So, shout out to Roy Evans. Y'all show Roy some love, man. Show Roy some love. And he's doing a fantastic job with everything that we have going on here at BCSN. A football team that played yesterday that I think people may want to take note on. Miles College. Did you see what they did to Central State on yesterday? Woo! The Bears look good, y'all. And I'm telling you what, in a couple of weeks, Albany State, Miles College. And those two look like the two dominant programs in the SIAC. They are going to clash, and that game just may be determines who gets home field for the SIAC championship game. So keep your eyes on those Golden Bears from Miles College. Also, Savannah State doing some good things down in South Georgia. I think that the SIAC Western Division, man, it's going to be a tough one. Kentucky State reminded you yesterday in the Circle City Classic to not forget about them. They beat Benedict College by a score 34-28. But Kentucky State is another one. That offense, they get that option going. Interesting. In Tuskegee, we'll see what Tuskegee looks like. We know that Tuskegee has started off rough. And a lot of people have been calling for the heads of the AD and coach. He's the same person. The AD and the coach at Tuskegee, same person. Of Coach Slater, also athletic director Slater. But offensively, Tuskegee looked a lot better. You can say what you want about Alabama A&M's defense, but that was Division II defense and Division II offense and Division I defense. We'll see what happens moving forward with the Golden Tigers of Tuskegee, and see what happens there. Also in the CIAA, you had a few scores there that probably caught a few people off board. One of the biggest ones there was Winston-Salem State, the way that they lost on yesterday. A lot of people saw the way they played against North Carolina Central and kind of felt like Winston might be, no, lost a big win yesterday. Virginia State also took a loss yesterday as well. Um, that's all the time that I have for you tonight. Short abbreviated version tonight. Um, we will not be abbreviated next week. I know I said that last week. Will not be abbreviated this week, but this week, due to some things out of my control, we're a little bit abbreviated. Didn't have AD Drew. Next week, we'll have some guesting for you. So be on the lookout for those guests. We'll announce those guests on Wednesday. Make sure that you're following along on Twitter at Inside HBCU Fball. You can find me there. Also, make sure that you're visiting the Inside HBCU Football homepage. We will put guest updates there as well, and also make sure that you're following the BCSN pages as well. We tweet those out, post those out. Make sure you can follow along so you know what's going on. Make sure you're checking out the Game Time Show. Tell you, Game Time Show is something that's going to be very big. If you watch College Game Day, you're a fan of Corso and Fowler and the rest of the guys. We got our own version now. We got our own version. It's called the Game Time Show, and it's brought to you by the good people here at BCSN. I'm BJ Jones. Like I said, I want to say thank you to everyone who is tuning in. This was only show number 3 for me. Yeah, only show number 3. So I'm still figuring this thing out. Man, you guys bear with me. I ain't in mid-season form yet. I'm not in mid-season form yet. This thing is going to get rolling. And I think you guys are going to really have some fun with it. I'm going to have fun with it. I have fun doing it. If you don't know, I have a lot of fun doing it. But I got some things that are kind of cooking, up in the brain area. Some ideas, for the show. You guys will see that. And the good thing about it is you get to see me grow doing this. You get to see you get to see where the show starts from, and then eventually what it will be. So I like having you along for that ride. I feel like we do something special that means that we did it together. Our intimate setting that we have here. But yes, next week we will be back hot and heavy. I promise you guys a band element. Oh, you will get a band element of this. You will see a couple band directors on here. We're going to be picking their brains about how they feeling about their season. HBCU bands are very important to the game day atmosphere. I ain't a specialist in that area at all. So that's why I'm going to have some of the experts and specialists to come on to kind of give us their 2 cents and kind of what they look for on Saturdays or Thursdays and how they prepare and so forth. So that's going to be something that's very interesting as well. So like I said, man, you guys, man, just buckle up. We're going to have fun. Remember, next week we are going into week number 5. Week number 5 of the HBCU football season. Key games next week. Make sure that you are following how you can watch these games. It's very important that when these games are on ESPN, family, or networks, doesn't matter if it's Plus, U2, it doesn't matter. Make sure that you're following along. Those ratings are very important. We talk about, we want exposure, we want these things for our HBCU football teams. We have to make sure that when they're available, we're taking advantage of those. So make sure that you do that. If you can get out and support your local HBCU, go out and do that. Go out and do that. Trust me, we need your support. We need your help. That's about all I have tonight. Want to thank Roy Evans back in the home studio for dialing everything up, pushing all the right buttons. Appreciate you, Roy. And on behalf of myself, Roy Evans, and the rest of the people at BCSN, here at BCSN. I am signing off for the third edition of the Inside HBCU football show. We will be back on next Sunday. We're going to have some guests for you. We're going to be breaking down all of these games from week 5 and also previewing the games for our week 6. And we will probably have a discussion about Top 5 Tuesday. Remember Top 5 Tuesday? That's going to drop on Tuesday. That's usually I drop that on Twitter. Make sure that you're following to get the exclusive, to get the drops on that. So looking forward to talking about that. I'm BJ Jones, and I appreciate you guys for tuning in. And I'll catch you next week. God bless you and good night.